In this episode of Ask the Expert, the independent investor sits down with the founder of the Carmen's Best Group, best known for their premium artisanal ice cream. We discuss his very personal experiences building and scaling Carmen's Best, the company's recent acquisition by the Metro Pacific Group, the changes that shift has brought in his life, and what it means to be a lifelong underdog. As a young immigrant in the US, leading a mom-and-pop ice cream operation, and now rolling his sleeves up once again as a niche player in the telco industry. It's a masterclass in the importance of staying scrappy and knowing who you are as an entrepreneur. The independent investor's expert today is none other than Paco Magsaysay. You're quite a busy man these days, so what's been keeping you busy?
Well, I resigned from the management of Carmen's Best early January, so just about a month ago. But I'm still on the board. So I've now focused running my dad's or our family business, the cable TV and internet broadband business. It's more broadband internet because, as you know, cable TV is going down because of the streaming services that are so prevalent. So it's a challenge because it's a new industry, but the basics of selling, the basics of relationship, the basics of customer attention is still there. So, you know, with that foundation, and I'm not naman asked to be the technical person in our group. No?
All right.
So we have our technical team with us. So we're able naman to, you know, make some inroads and close some accounts.
So this is Avocado. Avocado.
Avocado broadband. Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, I want to dive into Avocado a bit more later. But you mentioned you are no longer in charge of day-to-day operations at the Carmen's Best Group.
Yes.
So, of course, June 2022, Metro Pacific Investment Corp announces an acquisition of a controlling stake of Carmen's Best, right? So that being your brainchild for, I understand, to be about 198 million pesos. Now, I don't want to dwell too much on this, as I think there's a lot of your life story that we could explore before and after this deal. But as the independent investor caters largely to an audience of entrepreneurs, many of whom dream of an exit like this. I'm just curious, could you share a bit about how and why this deal came together?
Well, number one, we were not looking for anything like this. I mean, it's not like we hired an investment banker to, you know, look for an investor or a buyer for us. It just sort of happened, you know. So, you know, I get the question oftentimes, how do you build your company so that it's attractive to investors? Well, I didn't do that. I didn't have that in mind. I was just building the company the best way I could. And never in my wildest dreams did I have, you know, like a group coming in and buying in and, you know. So that was not something that was in the cards, as they say. And it just sort of happened. I mean, somebody just tapped our shoulder and it's sort of, okay, well, yeah, we'll listen, you know, interesting to find out, you know. So in terms of us preparing for that, we didn't prepare anything. We were just running the business the best way we felt, and, you know, dealing with our clients, our resellers, our distributors the proper way, meaning, you know, not doing bad business and treating them like, well, we treat them as if they're our partners or our clients, you know. So and it just sort of happened. And of course, your reputation in the market is extremely important. I mean, the people you deal with are also a lot of top people because they're restaurant owners, you know, they own hotels, coffee shops, and, you know, so on. So we live in a country of 110 million people, but it seems like in Metro Manila, there's so many people that know each other, diba? So when you do something kind of stupid, word gets around, right?
Right.
Yeah, so we've kept it clean. We've kept everything above board. So it made the MPIC group feel more comfortable in dealing with us. So yeah.
I mean, it's an approach that's clearly been successful for your group. I mean, so ice cream being a 17 billion peso industry in the Philippines, Carmen's Best being wildly successful in the artisanal kind of premium market segment. But in addition to this being a successful venture, this is also a pioneering investment in Metro Pacific's move into the agribusiness sector. So I'm just curious here, as a board member at Carmen's Best, bringing that sectoral expertise, do you play any sort of active role with the MVP group here?
Well, I didn't really know how much of a role I'd be playing when we first started talking. And, of course, you have ideas of how it's going to be and so on. But I think they have a good grasp of what they want to do. And they have an idea and a clear direction as to what they want to accomplish. So I was not really asked to be too involved in their, moving forward with their group. Yeah.
Well, then Paco, I'm curious. It's been a little over half a year since the announcement, a month, like you said, since the formal handover. How do you feel about it looking back?
Well, I was also getting tired running it now. I mean, there was just so much on my plate, and there were so many functions that I had to cover. And I'm no spring chicken,
You could have fooled me.
Yeah, I'm 55 this year, and we started the business 11 years ago. So I was 44, and 44 to 55 is a big change. So when I started it, I had boundless energy. I could work 16 to 18 hours a day, 6-7 days a week. I mean, just go all out, like running through brick walls and all that. But now I need to rest. so
Fair enough. Yeah.
So it's more you choose your battles. And but when I started Carmen's Best, there was so much on me because initially we didn't know how the company was going to grow. So I wasn't hiring anyone. I was doing everything by myself. We hired our first full-time person 3 years after operation.
Wow.
So they were just people helping me, from my driver at that time, helping me with delivering, from the maids in my house. I taught them how to make the ice cream, so we would do it together. So it was all part-time help from the office. Dolly would help me in the office. The finance people. We asked somebody to do part-time work for us as a bookkeeper. So somebody was holding that aspect of the business down, but it was still all under me because I was the only one that was full-time in running Carmen's Best. So you can imagine what it's like starting a business that didn't have a name. Nobody knew what Carmen's Best was 11 years ago. I was not in the industry. I was not in food, or I was not in hospitality. And I was possibly known more for maybe, the industry I was in prior to getting into Carmen's Best. So everything that said no, I went against. And I think one thing about me is I love a challenge, and whenever I'm challenged, it really motivates me to succeed. Kasi if it's about money, then it changes the complexity of what you're doing. When you have money as the primary goal, right? So if money's your primary goal, then you change your ingredients, right? You start cutting corners here and there. So, but if you don't make money your primary goal, but success as your primary goal, then you will find ways to succeed, right? So that's basically how I approach Carmen's Best. And I didn't want to cut corners with our ingredients, how we made it. And I wanted to look people straight in the eye when I was explaining about it, that I was not lying about anything when I say that we were making it the best way we could. And it showed, when people tried it, it was like, wow, this is really different, and they in turn started helping me sell the ice cream because they were so moved by how different the ice cream tasted. It was so different from what anyone has tried in the past. And they became my silent sales force. They would tell their friends, their family about it. And parang the product made itself sell itself. It sold itself. So as much as I was telling it to people I would meet, I would come across, um, I also had a lot of people telling their friends and family about it because we all like to talk to our friends about what's the best restaurant you've had, a particular dish or a new restaurant that you've tried that you want to share with your family. And so that's basically what happened. I mean, it sort of sold itself.
Paco, you said something really interesting earlier about motivation and saying instead of money, your motivation was success. And so I'm just really curious, how do you define success?
Well, for me, I guess success is achieving your goals, and I don't put a monetary figure with um, with my idea of what success is. So I tell my kids, I said, nobody asks me what car I drive, nobody asks me what watch I wear because it's irrelevant. It's what you accomplish. And I'm not a materialistic person. I'd rather put that quality in my product and like the ice cream, make it speak for itself. So when people see your values and what's important to you, well, in my case so far, people want to deal with me. So it's been like that anyway.
So, Paco, the Carmen's Best story has been widely publicized now. The strategies that got you from dairy farm to Metro Pacific acquisition. Today, I kind of want to focus a bit more on the entrepreneur behind it all.
Yeah.
So to do that, maybe we can go back before the acquisition, way before, but before your father, former Senator Ramon Magsaysay Jr., called you back to the Philippines from the US to help him run his business venture. So I understand you spent your formative school years in the US. Can you tell me a bit about that story?
Yeah. Well, I was born in 1968. So my parents sort of they split up in the mid 70s. So I was 7 or 8 years old. And at that time, there was no child psychologist or wala pang ganun at that time, no? I mean, it was sort of taboo to talk about psychiatrists or psychologists. Um, so late 70s, my mom decides to pack up and move to the US. And at that time, I'm 10, 11 years old. You just sort of go where your mom takes you. You don't really say, Filipino ako, dito ako titira. It's not like you can say these things because you're 10 years old, you're 11 years old, right? So pack up your things, we're going to go to the US. Okay, great, let's go. So we went to the US and it was a big change. I think I was still adjusting. Me and my sister were still adjusting with a breakup of my parents and adjusting to that new situation. And then we had to adjust again to living in a new country without any friends or relatives. So there was a lot of adjustment going there. And then eventually she ended up meeting my future stepfather at that time, who, when they got married, was my stepfather, who was a New Zealander. He was born and raised in New Zealand, but was a doctor in the US. So there was a lot of how do you say uncomfortable situations, growing up, and I realized that I am not afraid of being in uncomfortable situations. And we hear a lot of people talk about it's when you're uncomfortable, it's when you're growing, or when you're uncomfortable, that's when you're expanding your horizons, right? And for me, being uncomfortable became second nature to me because I felt that was really what life was like, because I was, moving here and there and being in situations that I was not accustomed to. So being uncomfortable was like, well, it's not a very foreign feeling to me because I got so used to it growing up. Which, when I had my kids, baliktad naman, you don't want them to go through so much uncomfortable situations.
Right.
So you try to, give them stability and, but then when I look back, spending my formative years in the US from the time I was 11, 12 years old to about 25. So all my teenage years were there. My foundation is pretty much from there. My value system, my work ethic, my I guess my grit, because it's not easy growing up in a foreign country and you experience forms of racism and but that's part of it. It makes you a stronger person. So yun, I mean, good and bad, but for the most part, if you had a choice, you probably won't put your loved ones through it, right? Which I chose not to do with my children because I had that option of bringing them to the US and growing up there, but I said no, we're gonna stay here and we're gonna live here and we're gonna establish our roots here, and that's what happened.
Paco, there are layers to the instability that you describe. Of course, the family situation that you described, but also, as you touched on, the immigrant experience.
Yes.
I myself was born and raised in the Philippines. I only moved to New York when I was 23 and spent a couple of years going back and forth. And even then, of course, America is a very racially charged country. I experienced a lot of that, but there's something completely different, I think, to moving to the US as an adult and then moving there as a child. The way that sort of prejudice hits you and kind of embeds itself into your psyche.
Yeah.
I don't know if you had a similar experience growing up or if that rings true with
like, ganun pala dito. It's funny because then you find ways to succeed. You find other ways because you feel like you're running a race, but you're 2 or 3 steps behind where the actual race is supposed to start. So you have to be creative in succeeding because dehado ka na. Parang you're 2-3 steps away from the starting line, and I'm like thinking, hey man, what's going on? Well, why am I 2-3 steps away from the starting line? But you still have to find a way to win the race. You know what I mean? So nasanay ako being an underdog, and that's, oh my God. I mean, having the mindset of an underdog was really one thing that helped me a lot running Carmen's Best, because I had that mindset of being the underdog, going against bigger companies, going against the fact that nobody knew what it was. Some of my family they were laughing at me. I knew it, and I'd walk around with a cooler in Makati for my accounts, and I could tell that they say, oh, anak ng senador, tas nagbebenta ng naglalako ng ice cream, and I didn't care because I was doing something. I was making an honest living. I was not fooling people. I was not cheating people. And I felt that I was doing a good thing, because at the end of the day, I was helping my father and his friends sell the milk or get rid of the milk, instead of just throwing it away. So I think that having that mindset of an underdog, so even before when I used to play a lot of basketball, I noticed I would play much better when I felt that dehado yung team ko. Diba? Yeah. There are these older guys that will choose the teams, and like one team is always weaker than the other. It's never really equal, right? So I would always be in that dehado team, where I felt like, okay, I gotta figure out how to make this team win because we are obviously dehado from the other team. And I think that mindset of embracing the mindset of an underdog is just, it's so underrated because that sort of connects to your grit, and grit, which is such a word that's been used the last several years. They connect it to people who succeed, having a lot of grit, and I guess that's the same thing as having the mindset, embracing the mindset of an underdog. So whether it's business, it's sports, or what have you, you tend to dig deeper and just find that extra push to make you succeed.
No, Paco, there's a clear through line here throughout your life of finding yourself in underdog situations, or maybe placing yourself in underdog situations, because there's something to be said about if you grow up being comfortable in discomfort. Sometimes you look for the discomfort because that's where you perform best. It's an interesting through line there. But I kind of want to jump forward now to 2007. Your father, as I understand, and some partners purchase a dairy farm in Laguna. Shortly after that, you get the call to come back to the Philippines to help manage operations, specifically, as you mentioned, to deal with their excess milk, their excess inventory. Can you tell me a bit about how that conversation went down?
Actually, I moved back to the Philippines in 1993. And this was because my dad ran for vice president under Miriam Defensor Santiago in 1991. When he came back when he ran in 91, I came back to the Philippines to help with the campaign. And then I went back to the US because I had a day job there. So I was working for MCI. It's a long distance company. Which is not there anymore because there's no more long distance. Everything's free now.
Correct.
But when he was asked to run again in 1995 under the Lakas Laban coalition of then President Fidel Ramos, he really asked me to move back for good. So I moved back in 93, this January of 93. And settled down. I got married, and then I started living in the Philippines. And first couple of years, I still wanted to go back to the US because I was having a difficult time adjusting to life here in the Philippines. Since I spent most of my adult years, I mean from 11, 12 years old to 25, I was living in the US. Talagang nahirapan ako to adjust to living here, no. And I almost moved back again. But when my dad ran for senator and he won in 95, that's when I felt like, I needed to stay and help the family. So the dairy actually came about in 2007, because my dad served 2 terms as senator, so 6 and 6. So it was 1995 to 2012. 2007, 95 to 2007, he was senator. And then we put up the dairy farm after that. We actually long-term leased land in Bai, Laguna. It was not a dairy farm yet, but we long-term leased the land because whatever money we had, we used it for building the barn and the milking parlor and all that. So we long-term leased about 27 hectares in Bai, Laguna, and then, started building the barn. But the first year of operation, I didn't want anything to do with the farm. I was totally against it. I was like, we're in the cable TV broadband business. What are we doing putting up a dairy farm? What the hell? Right? But then, it's embracing the unexpected, right? But so 1 year later, but it was like a whole year, a whole year later, my dad walks into my office and says, can you help us sell the milk? Because we're throwing away a lot of milk. And I said, sayang naman. And, when he asked me that, I felt like, of course, I can't say no to him anymore. So the farm was already up and it was 1 year into operating that I got involved with it. So I remember that weekend, I had a trip planned for Amanpulo, which was the first and last time I went there because I got it on sale. And yeah, so it was on sale. So I went there for the weekend, and then I got to meet the general manager at the time. This was in 2009, and she was from New Zealand, so she was same country as my stepfather. And I had been going to New Zealand, every other year, so I also familiar with New Zealand. Started talking to her about it, and said, by the way, we have a dairy farm. Maybe you'd like to try our milk. So I sent it to the Pasay hangar of Aman, and they liked it. So they started ordering our fresh milk, and I was telling myself, wow, if Aman is buying our milk, I'm sure I can make something special with this, right? So in 2009, I incorporated a company called Carmen's Best Dairy Products. And if you notice, there's no word ice cream there because I didn't know we were going to make ice cream. We were just going to make something with the dairy. So 2009 with the SEC, Carmen's Best Dairy Products, okay, incorporate the company. And since I had a day job, it's not like I was rushed to coming up with a new product, no. So it was only in 2011 that we started selling ice cream, about 2 years after I incorporated. But 2010 was when I started making ice cream, and it was so different than anything I had tried before. And I said, this is the only thing we're going to sell. We're not going to come up with anything else. So we started selling ice cream in February of 2011. That's why this February is our 12th year, February 2023. We started selling in February of 2011, and we didn't look back after I decided that all we're gonna do is ice cream.
So Paco, you decided, looking at the excess milk, doing your R&D, testing out different products. I imagine cheeses, yogurts. You decided to enter a market largely controlled by maybe 2 or 3 different players.
Yes. Yeah.
You entered specifically into the I don't know if you would describe it as the private label segment, just 1.4% of the entire market share. You go fully premium, fully artisanal. Sounds like a really uphill battle. What made you decide to go right in this section?
Well, number one was I had to use the milk from the farm, diba? And then it's not like we have such a big farm. At that time, we only had about 100 heads of cattle. So coming up with a mass-produced product was totally out of the question because I only had a small amount of milk that I could use, the milk that they were throwing away. And I just was thinking of selling in the village in Ayala, Alabang. So I didn't have any logistics. I didn't have any of that. It was just like, we'll just sell in the village, and then
it was the house staff making the ice cream, delivering the ice cream.
Yeah, well, I mean, I would do it with them, and then because it's very exact. Because making ice cream is like baking; it's not like cooking. And I was surprised some of the cooks, they don't know how to measure pala because they're so used to tansya, like putting a pinch of this and a pinch of that, and so I even had to teach the cooks how to measure, because it had to be exact when you make ice cream. So we were selling ice cream in the village, and of course small scale, but it was not getting sold as much as I thought it would. So we still had the problem of throwing away milk because it was not moving fast enough. So that's when I had to think of selling it outside of the village. And I reached out to Chitwan she was part of Figaro prior to that. Then she started this Echo store. And when I started talking to Chitwan, who I had known years before, she knew about my dad's dairy farm as well. So there was a connection, right, from the dairy farm to making ice cream. And then I made her try it, and it was really, of course, it was out of this world. And so she put it in her Serendra store. So that gave me a Makati address. And then we started selling it also in her new franchise operator, which was in Centris, Echo Store Centris on EDSA Corner, Quezon Avenue. So that gave us a Quezon City location. And then we were selling in our office in Salcedo Village. So parang we had 3 locations. I think the best thing that happened to us was Facebook was just ramping up at that time, because I think Facebook was like, I think 2009, 2010, and we started selling 2011. So Facebook was really growing, and we were showing a lot of pictures, and people were sharing pictures in Facebook. Because before that it was Multiply, and Multiply was not a very easy platform to use,
Right.
unlike Facebook. But in Facebook, people were sharing content, sharing articles, and all that. So that helped us a lot, because I could choose specifically that the boost be shown in specific parts of Metro Manila. You could choose Alaba or Muntinlupa. You could choose Makati. You could choose the age range from 18 to 35 or whatever, and female. So it was very specific. And had it not been for social media, I think it would have been very difficult for us to get the word out or to grow. I think social media was a huge help to us. So good timing.
As an Alabang native myself, I do remember actually when Carmen's Best first started cropping up in the village selling groups, in the chats, in the Facebook selling groups, in Palms Country Club. I remember Holly's Milk was there, Carmen's Best was there. So at that point, who were your customers back then?
Well, it was the friends of my dad, my friends. It was people that we knew, So I was actually the primary customer in mind in terms of coming up with flavors. So the flavors I came up with were Brazilian coffee. We were the first to come up with salted caramel in 2011. So Brazilian coffee, salted caramel, butter pecan, and malted milk. So when I first came up with these flavors, people were like, "Wow, what kind of flavors are that?" It's nothing like the typical strawberry, chocolate, vanilla, or the ube, queso, makapuno, or chocolate. It was totally different, And I precisely wanted to offer ice cream that I felt people would like. So it was more, walang market research yan. It was just, everything was on gut feel, because, I was thinking, nobody serves these types of flavors. I think people will like it here because I like it anyway. So I think people will like it. So, Brazilian coffee is still one of the top sellers. Our salted caramel is still our number one selling flavor. Malted milk, which uses Maltesers and Horlicks, is still in our top 5. And the butter pecan is also still in our top 5. So the first flavors I came up with are still being patronized by our regular clients.
I think there's something to be said about just how grassroots the early days of Carmen's Best was in kind of helping you really get to know who your customers were, and then therefore shaping your growth strategy.
I mean, when you understand who your clients are and how they use how they consume the ice cream. Like when my mom was, she was in palliative care. I mean, she was not doing well, and I remember the food that was being asked by the hospital for us to buy. I forget the name, but it was like 10 or 12,000 for every 2 to 3 days. So my mom just said, "No, just give me the Brazilian coffee, and I'm okay." because it's dairy. There's no artificial ingredients in it, and I remember Bobby Aquino, my classmate from Ateneo, the 1 year I went there. His father was eating our ice cream in the last few days that he was alive. So I would tell my production crew, I said, you have to be very careful how we make the ice cream, because for some people this is their last meal. I mean,
no pressure.
it's some people's last meal, and a lot of older people, they like to eat our ice cream because it's heavy, it's very dense, and they'll choose the flavors without the nuts, like the coffee or the salted caramel or the dark chocolate, because it fills them up, and they don't feel bloated or whatnot because we don't pump air in our ice cream. So it's a very how do you say, the customers are very close to me. When I meet people in the grocery, when I give them my card, I mean, you see the smile in their faces when they say, "Oh my God," and then they have all these stories to share with me, and yeah, it's very, it's a very warm and fuzzy feeling when you connect with your customers, and they have a lot of good memories to share with you.
Maybe just to complement that, you're also extremely exacting with your product. I'm curious if you trace that back to, of course, in 2013, I understand you took an ice cream course in Penn State's College of Agricultural Science. I should say the ice cream course, right? Attended by the leaders of Baskin Robbins, Ben and Jerry's, Strayers, Häagen-Dazs. How did that experience guide the growth of Carmen's Best?
Well, when I started making ice cream in 2011, I just learned it through YouTube. So because social media's there, and you just watch videos on YouTube, how to make French toast, how to make pancakes, and the proper omelette, how to cook a steak. How do you make ice cream? So it comes out on YouTube, right? So I'm making it that way, but using, of course, the best ingredients. So of course the outcome's going to be different. And the business was growing, and I was still helping my father in his business. So I was just moonlighting. This was like my sideline work, my side hustle, as they call it now. But then when we would finish making ice cream at like 1 or 2 in the morning, then later it's like 2 or 3 in the morning and 4 in the morning. I was like, I can't do this anymore, because when I wake up in the morning, I start delivering ice cream and visiting clients and whatnot. I said, I need to decide if I'm going to take this on full time or not, And at that point, it was pretty much, I'm going to do this full time because it's growing so fast. And I searched the internet, where's the best ice cream school in the world, And since ice cream is more American than it is European, because in Europe it's more gelato. And I wanted to stick to ice cream, because making gelato and ice cream is two very different animals altogether. The course that came out was the Penn State course, which is where Ben and Jerry studied. So at that point, the class had been going on for 120 plus years, but it's only once a year, and they only stopped offering the course 1 year when it was World War II, nung nagkagera yung America. So that's the only year they stopped offering the class, But it's been going on for 100, siguro now it's 130 plus years na, kasi when I took it in 2013, we were like 121st class at that time. And so I had already 2 years under my belt of making ice cream. So I went there with experience. Now, the other guys that went there, that attended the class, were more thinking of doing it, meaning wala pa silang masyadong experience. Whereas me, I had 2 years of ice cream making already. So I purposely sat in the front part of the class just so I could absorb as much as I could, because it was only for a week, right? So I sat in the front of the class and I tried to absorb everything, and I tweaked the recipe quite a bit when I came back, and that's when it really started to grow fast, So that was 2013, January of 2013, and then the Pope had our ice cream 2015, I think 2015. So parang it was win after win, that things happen that it's totally out of your control. It just happens, and of course a lot of bad things happen too when it's ongoing. Like I remember the only one machine we had conks out the day we start selling, which is February 1, 2011. So I'm like, oh my God, our one machine conked out, right? And you know naman how service is here in the Philippines, right? So I'm like thinking, I need to buy 2 more machines so that should one of the 2 break down, I still have another one. Mm-hmm. So it took a few months to have that third one fixed, the original one. But I had 2 backup, 2 new ones that I started, continue producing ice cream. Yeah, so funny memories, happy memories.
I mean, of course, before we kind
Yeah.
of close the chapter on your week in Penn State, would be remiss not to mention that you won the prestigious Keeney Award, right? Which is
Yes. Yeah.
awarded to a student most likely that I believe most likely to succeed in the ice cream industry.
Yeah.
I imagine that must have given you the confidence to press on in this industry.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I didn't know there was such a thing. A Keeney Award. It's like, what's that? You know, but that was not discussed when we first started the class. So, but one of our classmates was Christina Tosi of Momofuku.
Absolutely, milk
And
bar.
yeah, and I wish I got a picture. Well, she's in the class picture, but I don't have a picture with her. Kaming dalawa lang. But I told her, hey, I'm coming up with an ice cream in the Philippines. Maybe you can share with me your cereal milk ice cream. So she shared naman with me her cereal milk ice cream. But yung cereal milk ice cream niya is actually a soft serve.
Yes.
So her soft serve cereal milk is very different from our cereal milk hard ice cream, which is it's made very different from a soft serve version. It's funny, she didn't even ask. I can't remember her asking one question at all. Yeah, so but she was seated a few rows behind me, and I knew she was because she had come up with books at that time already. She had quite a few books already, but that was before she got into the Master Chef series. Yeah, that was before that.
Yeah, that cereal milk ice cream was my my daily my daily ritual walking through downtown in New York when I was living there.
Yeah,
I probably shouldn't have been, but it was.
Yeah, it's okay. I think they use some fresh milk there.
I would hope so. So that's 2013. Takes us all the way back to 2023, 10 years later. The Carmen's Best Group, of course, now part of the MVP family. Yourself on the board, but no longer at the helm of the day-to-day operations. Paco, in my conversations with entrepreneurs, I've come to understand that the itch to chase ideas and start new ventures, that never really goes away. So however way a chapter closes, there always seems to be another one, next one.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'm really interested here. Can you tell me a bit about your role now in Avocado Broadband Telecoms?
Well, I remember very well when just a few months ago, where I realized that I was no longer running the whole show, and it was really the Metro Pacific guys running it. And I have to say, I felt like I was in unstable ground because it was a situation that I was not familiar with. So, feeling uneasy and not really sure. And, I am not one to rock the boat, definitely. I mean, I want to be a good partner to the Metro Pacific Group. Of course, we have majority, we let them run it. And if they need any questions answered, I am more than willing to, answer whatever questions they have or any input that they want. But it was a situation that was relatively new to me because I was always 101 things to do, It's like, parang, and then all of a sudden it's like pulled from, it's like a rug that's pulled under your feet, and so you're sort of, in a position or in a time where, okay, well, this is kind of weird, So, and then looking at the organization of my father, I noticed that we were still so much skewed to cable residential subscribers, when in fact the market is really going towards broadband internet and data services. So at that point, we are only at 20% of our total is corporate clients. So I told that to my management group in the cable broadband that, hey, maybe we need to have a bigger percentage than 20% that should be in the data services and internet connectivity part of our business, because cable TV has really been going down the last several years, with Netflix and Amazon Prime and so on, right? And it's different when an owner meets with another business owner, where you can make decisions right there. I can do this, I can do that. It's easier to close deals. And I think that's what I bring to the table. And I still remember a few weeks ago where I woke up and I was excited again. But I was excited about the broadband business. And, people go through life sometimes not feeling that excitement. So I think I'm blessed in a way that, I'm able to get this sort of feeling that sort of fuels me, to really keep on going and achieving what I set out to achieve. And yeah, so it's more that the fact that I'm excited about this now, and it's keeping me going now. So, yeah.
Perhaps excited to be once again in the underdog position.
Yeah, because we're going against big guys like Globe, Converge, and PLDT. So I'm an underdog again.
I mean, it's incredible, just the pattern there, Paco. It's you enter ice cream, an industry controlled by 2 or 3 massive players. You decide I'm gonna niche down. I'm gonna focus on this, and once again, you're doing that again in the telco side.
Yeah. So it's nice if you have a better understanding of yourself, better understanding of your external or what's going on around you, and choosing your battles. You have to sort of understand to play to your strength, and of course try not to take on things that's totally out of your control. So it's pretty much being more grounded, and you're a little bit slower, you're a little bit you get tired a little bit faster, and you have to be wise about expending energy. So I sound like I'm 80, but anyway.
I know, I was just gonna say you're not old, Paco. I hope you remember that.
yeah
But there's something to be said there, and if you don't mind me asking this, what is it like being at this stage again in a venture now in your 50s versus when you started in your 40s? When you started Carmen's Best in your 40s?
About 2-3 weeks ago, I had to go from Batangas to Lucban, Quezon it was a Sunday night, and it was getting quite late, and my driver and I stopped in this restaurant in, I think, Candelaria, Quezon. No? I mean, it's a place that I probably would not eat in, sure. But there was no other place around. And you're sitting there, and then there are all these stray dogs walking around and stuff. And then I'm thinking, I'm getting that feeling again. I'm in that feeling of being in a place that you normally would be in, right? And I love it. I took a picture of the food. I took a picture of the place, and I love it. I'm back to the early days of Carmen's Best, and I was, it was not an unfamiliar feeling, but it was something that was familiar that I hadn't felt in a long time, and that really energized me. I was like, oh wow, this is great. I mean, I'm starting a new journey, and that feeling of uneasiness and that restlessness is coming back to me. And but what's good is I have so much staff to work with. I mean, we got so many people on the ground, so I know it's not going to be anything close to how tired I was when I was running Carmen's Best. So yeah, I don't work 7 days anymore. I work 6 days, and I'm able to sleep a little longer. So, which is a good thing. And it helps that people know me now. Like, oh, where's the ice cream? They're always teasing me about ice cream.
You're not carrying a cooler in hand anymore.
No more na. I have a folder with data services and all that. Yeah, so it's nice, and people are warmer to me, and a lot of stories we exchange. So yeah, it's more, everything's more more calm and subdued. Yeah.
So what's I gotta ask, what's next for Paco Magsaysay?
Well, we're growing the business of my father, our family, and maximizing whatever strengths that we have. I mean, we're not a PLDT or a Globe, so and maybe we don't want to be a PLD or a Globe. So, we just sort of play to our strengths and to go from there. Same thing with Carmen's Best. We played to our strengths. We were not a Nestle or a Magnolia, or a Selecta, but we played to our strengths. So we catered to a particular market. And same thing now, we're catering to a particular market. So, yeah.
So, I mean, with the time we have remaining today together, curious, you've done this already throughout this conversation, but speaking now directly to an audience of entrepreneurs, of investors that are championing early stage entrepreneurs, what sort of advice would you like to impart?
Well, I guess the advice would be to understand what you're going after, because sometimes people go after, money. Sometimes people go after having freedom, like for me, I was going after success, and success doesn't equal a lot of money. It doesn't always equal that, but success is success, but I think if you also follow what helps you burn that fire inside you, it's such a huge help, because it really keeps you going when you get tired, or when you feel a little down. That fire inside you just really keeps you going. And not everybody gets that feeling where they have that fire inside you for a particular thing. But I hope that people find that, because it's really different when you're doing something you enjoy and you feel that you have passion for. But definitely you can move it around. I mean, I was watching a video of Arnold Schwarzenegger, who achieved so much as a bodybuilder, or when he was younger. Then he went into acting and he won so many awards as an actor. Then he went into politics and he got to the highest position as a non-US born person. He became a governor of California, So it's amazing what hard work, a lot of passion and desire can help you achieve, and depending where you put it, So, I did it with ice cream, and I was able to succeed in that. And I'm putting my energy and effort now to our family business, and I hope to, achieve what I did with ice cream.
Well, Paco, I'm thrilled to hear that you are feeling that same fire here with your family business, and I wish you best of health and best of luck.
Thank you so much.